So I've taken the advice of some of the guys in the comments and I have applied for the new bank card, which will give me another 5 years of security once I arrive in the Philippines. I'm just relying now on the Royal Mail. Today, though, we're going to look at 5 things that I'm definitely not going to miss in the UK. And one of them isn't the Royal Mail, but let's go and find out what those 5 things are that I'm definitely not going to miss when I leave. Hello and welcome back to Scrambled Eggs because it matters. I'm Phil and welcome to the channel. And in this series of videos, we are tracking my journey from the UK all the way over to the Philippines, as I will be leaving the UK in a roughly about 5 weeks. I think it's 5 weeks tomorrow. So we're very excited. Things are all on track, but we are, as I say, have applied for that new bank card and it's up to the Royal Mail now. I don't trust the Royal Mail. They are very, very poor in terms of delivering letters at the moment. But let's hope that this one gets there. I shall keep you updated. Nothing could possibly go wrong, could it? And so today, as I mentioned, we're going to look at the 5 things that I am definitely not going to miss when I leave the UK. So let's talk about the first one. Number 1 is not the weather, but more specifically, winter. And there's a few reasons why I don't particularly like winter in the UK. Cold and the wet drive me absolutely crazy. It's rained for about 42 days constantly in my small village here for at least part of the day. And that thin, nasty drizzle that lingers in the air seems to just creep under your clothes and permeate into your bones. It's absolutely horrible, that grey, nasty drizzle that hangs in the air and can just hang with you for days without respite. And that is considerably unpleasant. And coupled with that is the cold. It has been bitterly cold during this winter, and I do not want to have another winter here. And there's 2 reasons why that bitterly cold is important. And the first one is I'm getting old now, and my joints are not what they used to be. And that bitter cold, that stark cold, is a bit like just gets into my joints. And I'm developing a problem when the cold weather arrives. It's made even worse with the drizzle. And so enough of that. And as soon as I get into the warmth, when I go to the Far East, my joints recover. So I am definitely not going to miss the cold weather and that dreadful rain. But there is a secondary reason, because if you've ever lived in a shared house, generally what tends to happen in the winter when everybody's gone off to work, the landlord doesn't have the heating on. So you're wrapped up in your coat, sometimes under the duvet watching TV, just desperately trying to stay warm during the day until the heating comes on around about 4 o'clock. It's not pleasant, and that can go on January, February, sometimes into early March, where you have these bitterly cold days and no heating. So there's a few reasons, but definitely reason number 1, the thing I am not going to miss the most when I leave the UK is not the weather, it's just winter. And so that's the first thing, is these bitterly cold, wet, miserable winters. I don't want to see another one of those ever again. And the second thing that I won't miss when I leave the UK is the isolation and sometimes the loneliness. Having come back from Vietnam, working abroad 3 years ago, getting myself established back into the UK has been very difficult. And in my experience is that in the UK, you are pretty much on your own. Unless you have family, friends already around you, it's very difficult to make new ones, especially if you're not going out a lot, if you're not feeling that that's something that you want to do. And so I pretty much have been pretty isolated, away from the people that I care for, away from the people that I love and the people that I miss. And so I don't want to do that anymore. And I can't imagine living out the rest of my life getting worse physically, emotionally, and mentally, sitting in a chair and just watching TV among people who I don't really know. So that's not going to happen. And I'm not going to miss that feeling of isolation, that feeling of being alone. So number two is just basically I need to get away from the isolation and the loneliness. And the third thing that I'm not going to miss about the UK is the state of British politics at the moment. It is an absolute shambles, and it is ruled by people who I don't believe have any care at all for about the British population. They care only about themselves. What I am seeing from our politicians is that we are descending back into an oligarchy. And yes, England and Great Britain was an oligarchy right up to probably just before the World War One. Although it had started to be dismantled in the mid 19th century, it really wasn't dismantled until around about the beginning of the First World War. Democracy actually took as long as up to 1969 before it was a proper democracy. So prior to being a democracy, we were an oligarchy, a country that was ruled by landowners, by the wealthy, and it was run for their purposes. The rest of us didn't really matter. And from what I can see at the moment, much of the West, including the UK, is descending back into those days of oligarchy. It will turn out messy. Governments do not answer to the people who elect them anymore, it seems to me. My opinion is now they answer more to lobbyists and wealthy landowners and the people who run the large corporations. That's who the government answers to. They need to go back to a proper democracy and answer to the people who elect them. But I am not going to miss all that when I leave. I'm not going to be following the news very, very much. I didn't when I was away. Of course, major events worldwide I will follow, but UK news, not going to happen for me. And then there is the cost of living. Let's think about the cost of living. Reason number four, the number four thing that I'm not going to miss when I leave is the cost of living. I was actually in the supermarket the other day doing a weekly shop and picking up the tray of chicken thighs that I normally buy. I can remember 9 months ago paying just under a £5 for them. The same weight, the same tray, the same amount of chicken pieces now is £7. So it's gone up £2 in just under 9 months. And that is not a good sign. The government keep telling me that inflation is under control. It's not. It's going to get worse now with the war in Iran. Prices are going to skyrocket because fuel prices are going to go up. And my allowances are going down. And so the cost of living is a major issue here in the UK. I'm not sure it's having the same effect. It will have an effect in the Philippines when I leave, but I'm not sure it's going to be the same effect. I think that the money that I have here in the UK will go a lot further when I move to the Philippines. So reason number four, the fourth thing that I am definitely not going to miss when I leave is the rising cost of living. And finally, the fifth thing that I'm definitely not going to miss is related to the isolation thing that I talked about earlier. Now, I grew up in the 70s and early 80s. I was a teenager, young man in those years when Britain was at its best. We were a very affluent, very influential country. And it was a time where Britain was booming, where everybody had a job, or at least everybody could get a job. And things were looking good. We were a great manufacturing country. And everything was great in those days. And they were also days when you had a degree of freedom of speech, which is something else that is not happening at the moment. And I guess because people are afraid to express their opinions. The fifth thing that I am not going to miss is the loss of the community. I remember in those days is communities of people, kids playing on the street, people looking after the old people in the street. Now that seems to me to have all gone. People will cross the road to pass you on the other side of the road. People are suspicious. We live our lives in fear. And a lot of that has to do with the internet and social media and the rise of hate culture. We are developing into one of the most divided societies that I've ever known. Women hate men, men hate women, young hate old, black hates white, this religion hates that religion. We are becoming the most divided society that I've ever known. And as a result, communities are dying. And if communities die in the old sense, where everybody in that community looked after each other, knew about each other, the moment, I don't know after 3 years. In fact, I only know one person living in my street. You hardly see anyone, and when you do, they scurry past you. Nobody cares anymore, as we've become a culture of me, 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 me. And I don't fit in with that culture at all. And it's something that I won't be too unhappy to leave behind. One day, maybe Britain will find that sense of caring again, slow down enough to see other people, maybe. Who knows? I certainly can't live with the communities as they are at the moment. So there are 5 things that I definitely won't miss when I leave the UK. There are things that I will miss, and I'll probably do a list of those things in the next video. But I think the things that I won't miss definitely have the upper hand. And I'm leaving not to escape those. I'm not running away from those things. I can probably live with them. I'm actually running to something. I've always got to keep it in mind that I'm running to something rather than running away from something. I'm running to where the love is. And I'm not just running to escape, because if I run to escape, my problems are just going to follow me. I'm perfectly happy with the decision I've made, and I won't miss those things. It will give me much better peace of mind when I arrive, and hopefully everything will work out. Everything is falling into place, and hopefully it's going to work out fine when I leave towards the end of April. And so that's it for this video, just sharing my thoughts on things that I will not miss when I leave. Thank you very much for watching. This is Scrambled Eggs, because it matters. I'm Phil, and all that remains to be said is stay safe, stay strong, keep healthy, and we'll see you in the next video.